The first Catholic Mass in the Philippines. Butuan was believed to be the site of the first Mass for 3 centuries. It has long believed that the first Mass was held at Butuan, but that claim was only based on elementary reading from the said event, culminating in the erection of a monument in 1872 near Agusan River, which commemorates the expedition's arrival and celebration of Mass on 8 April 1521. The Butuan claim rests a tradition that was almost anonymous and unbroken for 3 centuries. On the strength of that tradition and embodying it, a monument was erected in 1872 near Agusan River, near the mouth of Agusan River. So it was created by a Spanish Augustinian Recollect friar. Toward the end of the 19th century and the start of the 20th century, together with the increasing scholarship on the history of the Philippines, a more nuanced reading of the available evidence was made. This interpretation brought to light more consideration in going the more conventional interpretation of the first Mass in the Philippines, made both by Spanish and Filipino scholars. So, we have the historians. Historians generally refer to two primary sources in identifying the first Mass. So we have the log kept by Francisco Albo and the account by Antonio Pigafetta, or the first voyage around the world. So log kept by Francisco Albo. So Francisco Albo is a pilot of Magellan's ships, which is the Trinidad. So which did not return because after the attempting to a return journey to Spain, it was overwhelmed by a severe storm, and crew suffer from cold, hunger, and sickness. So he was one of the 18 survivors who returned with Sebastian Elcano on board the vessel Victoria after they circumnavigated the world. So Sebastian Elcano ruled the remaining ships of Magellan and completed the first circumnavigation of the world. So in Albo's log, we have here the first one on the 6th of March 1521. So this is the start of their voyage. This is the start of the voyage. As they sailed in a westerly course from Ladrones, they saw land towards the northwest, but owing to many shallow places, or when you say shallow places, it is the areas where the water are not deep, so they did not approach it. So they found later that its name was Unigan, or in recent, Unigan was Hinunangan Southern Leyte. That was it. So they went instead the same day southwards to another small island named Suluan, an island barangay. When you say Suluan, it is an island barangay at Diwan Eastern Samar. So, and there Spaniards and there they anchored. So, dito hera nag-stop. So, there they saw some canoes, but these fled at the Spaniards' approach. This island was at 9 and 2/3 degrees north latitude. So, departing from those two islands, Ladrones and Unigan, they sailed westward to an inhabited island of Gada, where they took in a supply of food and water. The sea around that island was free from shallow. Albo does not give the latitude of this island, but from Figapita testimony, this seems to be the Aquada or Homonhon at 10 degrees north latitude. So, from that island, they sailed westward towards a large island named Silani that was inhabited and was known to have gold. Siliani, or as Pigafetta calls it, Ceylon, was the island of Leyte. So, there, the, dito na yung nangyari when the Spaniards go to Leyte and they found out na maraming gold yung island na yun, which is Leyte. And sailing southwards along the coast of that large island of Silani, they turned southwest to a small island called Mazava. This island is also at the 9th latitude until 3rd degrees north. The people of that island of Mazava were very good. There the Spaniards planted the cross upon a mountain top, and from that there they were told there were shown 3 islands to the west and southwest. There they were told there was much gold. They showed us how gold was gathered, which came in small pieces like peas and lentils. So they planted a cross, which is to be known in Limasawa Island. So many believe that Spaniards planted a cross in Limasawa. So in Limasawa, the people there showed them three islets, and sinabi rin nila na marami daw golds there. From there, they sailed northwards against towards Silani or in Leyte. They followed the coast of Silani in the northwesterly direction, ascending up to 10 degrees of latitude where they saw 3 small islands. Yun yung sinasabi ko kanina. From there, they sailed westward some 10 leagues, and there they saw 3 islets, where they dropped an anchor for the night. In the morning, they sailed southwest some 12 leagues, down to a latitude of 10 and 1/3 degrees. There, they entered a channel between 2 islands, one of which was called Matan or Mactan, and the other was Subu or Cebu. They coaled down the channel and then turned westward and anchored at the town or the La Villa of Cebu, where they stayed many days and obtained provisions and entered into peace pact with the local king. So the town of Cebu was on east-west direction with the island of Suluan and Masava. So sa east portion, sa east-west portion of Suluan and Masaba. But between Mazaba and Cebu, there were so many shallows that the boats could not go westward directly, but had to go as they did in a roundabout way. So hindi sila so they cannot sailed towards um, Mazava and Cebu because there it is so many shallow. So what they did is they roam around the island to go there. And in Albo's account, the location of Mazaba fits that of the island of Limasawa. At the southern tip of Leyte, 9 degrees 54 minutes north. Also, Albo does not mention the first mass, but only the planting of the cross upon a mountain top, from which could be seen 3 islands to the west and southwest, which also fit the southern end of Limasawa. Albo and Pigafetta testimonies coincide and corroborate each other. So, mapapansin natin nga ito nga, Albo does not cite that the first mass was held in Limasawa, but it just stated there that they planted a cross on the tip of the mountain. So that was the Albo's log. So have the Pigafetta's testimony on the route of Magellan's expedition according to Bernard, 1981. So in Saturday, March 16, 1521, Magellan's expedition sighted a highland named Zamal, which was some 300 leagues westward of Laridones, or now the Marianas Island. So in March 17 naman, it is Sunday, the following day, after sighting Zamal Island, they landed on another island which was inhabited and which lay to the right of the above-mentioned island of Zamal. To the right here would mean on their starboard going to south or southwest. There they set up two tents for the sick members of the crew and had soon killed for them. The name of this island was Homono or Homonhon. This island was located at 10 degrees north latitude. On that same day, Sunday, March 17, Magellan named the entire archipelago the island of Saint Lazarus. The reason being that it was Sunday and the Lenten season when the Gospel assigned for the Mass and liturgical office was the 11th chapter of Saint John, which tells of the raising of Lazarus from the dead. So they named that archipelago the island of Saint Lazarus. So Monday, March 18, in the afternoon of their second day on that island, they saw a boat coming towards them with 9 men in it. An exchange of gifts was effected. Magellan asked for the food supplies, and the men went away, promising to bring rice and other supplies in 4 days. So that was happened. So it is in the third day. There were two springs of water in that islands of Homonhon. Also, they saw there's some indication that there was gold in this island. So they saw two springs there, and they know pa nga, there are lots of golds in Homonhon. Consequently, Magellan renamed the island and called it the watering place of God Omen. So in Friday, March 22, Friday at noon, the natives returned. This time they were in the two boats and they brought food supplies. Food supplies. So Magellan's expedition stayed 8 days at Homonhon, from Sunday 17 from Sunday March 17 to the Monday of the following week, March 25. So in March 25, Monday, in the afternoon, the expedition weighed anchor and left the island of Homonhon. In the ecclesiastical calendar, this day, March 25, was the feast day of the Incarnation, also called the Feast of Annunciation and therefore Our Lady's Day. On this day, as they were about to weigh anchor, an accident happened to Pigafetta. He fell into the water but rescued, so nahulog si Pigafetta, but agad naman siyang na-rescue. He attributed his narrow escape from death as grace obtained through intercession of the Blessed Virgin Mary on her feast day. So, the route taken by the expedition after leaving Homonhon was toward the southwest between four islands, namely Ceylon, Hinongnan, Iboson, and Alboren. Very proudly, Sinalo is a misspelling in the Italian manuscript for what Pigafetta and his map calls Ceylon or Leyte, and Albo calls Silani, namely the islands of Leyte. Hinonghan, a misspelling of Hinunangan, seemed to be Pigafetta to be a separate island, but is actually on the mainland of Leyte or Ceylon. On the other hand, Hibuson, Pigafetta's Ibuson, is an island east of Leyte's southern tip. So, these three islands is under Ceylon or near Ceylon. Thus, it is easy to see what Pigafetta meant by sailing toward the west-southwest past those islands. They left Homonhon, sailing westwards towards Leyte, then followed the Leyte coast southward. So passing between the islands of Hiboson on their port side and Hionangan Bay on their starboard, and then continued southern, turning westward to Mazao. So March 28, Thursday, in the morning of Holy Thursday, March 28, they anchored off an island where the previous night they had seen a light, the Arctic Pole, and in a longitude of 162 degrees from the line of demarcation. It is 25 leagues from the Aquada and is called Mazao. They remained 7 days on Mazao Island. Thursday, April 4, Thursday, They left Mazao, bound for Cebu. They were guided, took them past 5 islands, namely Silon, Bohol, Canigahan, Baybay, neither by the king of Mazao who sailed in his own boat, their route to Gatighan. At Gatighan, they sailed westward to the 3 islands of the Camotes group, namely Poro, Pasihan, and Ponson. Here the Spanish ships stopped to allow the king of Mazao to catch up with them. Since the Spanish ships were much faster than the native Balanghay, thing that excited the admiration of the king of Mazao. From the Camotes Island, they sailed southwards towards Cebu. In April 7, naman, it was Sunday, at noon, they entered the harbors of Cebu. It had taken them 3 days to negotiate the journey from Mazao northwards to the Camotes Island and then southwards to Cebu. Another, we have the 7 days in Mazao of Pegapeta, according to Bernard. Wait, we have Pegapeta and 7 days in Mazao according to Bernard, 1981. So, in March 28th, Thursday, in the morning, they anchored near an island where they had seen a light the night before. A small boat, or buluto, came with 8 natives, to whom Magellan threw some trinkets as present. The natives paddled away, but 2 hours later 2 larger boats o balanghay came, in one of which the native king sat under an awning of mats. At Magellan's invitation, some of the natives went up the Spanish ship, but the native king remained seated in his boat. An exchange of gifts was effected in the afternoon that day. The Spanish ships weighed anchor and came closer to shore, anchoring near the native king's village. This Thursday, March 28th, was Thursday in Holy Week, or Holy Thursday. In March 29th, Friday, next day, Holy Friday, Magellan sent his slave interpreter ashore in a small boat to ask the king if he could provide the expedition with food supplies, and to say that they had come as friends and not as enemies. In reply, the king himself came in a boat with 6 8 men, and this time went up Magellan's ships, and the 2 men embraced. Another exchange of gift was made. The native king and his companions returned ashore, bringing with them 2 members of Magellan's expeditions as guests for the night. One of the two was Pegafetta. In March 30, Saturday, Pigafetta and his companion had spent the previous evening fasting and drinking with the native king and his son. Pigafetta deplored the fact that, although it was Good Friday, they had to eat meat. The following morning, Saturday, Pigafetta and his companion took leave of their host and remained to the ships. On March 31, Sunday naman, early in the morning of Sunday, the last of March and Easter Sunday, Magellan sent the priest ashore with some men to prepare for the Mass. Later in the morning, Magellan landed with some 50 men and Mass was celebrated, after which a cross was venerated. Magellan and the Spaniard returned to the ship for the noonday meal, but in the afternoon they returned ashore to plant the cross on the summit of the highest hill. In attendance both of the Mass and at the planting of the cross were the king of Mazao and the king of Butuan. March 31, Sunday, on that same afternoon, while at the summit of the highest hill, Magellan asked the 2 kings which ports he should go to in order to obtain more abundant supplies of foods than were available on that island. They replied that there were 3 ports to choose from: Ceylon, Cebu, and Calagan. One of the 3, Cebu, was the port with the most trade. Magellan then said that he wished to go to Cebu due to the depart the following morning. He asked for someone to guide him neither. The kings replied that the pilots would be available anytime. Later that evening, the king of Mazao changed his mind and said that he would himself conduct Magellan to Cebu, but that he would first have to bring the harvest in. He asked Magellan to send him men to help with the harvest. So, nangarohimbulig ang king of Cebu kan Magellan para mabulig ang Hera send hampag conduct an harvest. So, April 1, Monday, Magellan sent men ashore to help with the harvest. But no work was done that day because the two kings were sleeping off their drinking but the night before. So, nagpadara si Magellan men ngadto, but there are no works done kay nangangaturog pa daw duduhan na king. So, April 2, Tuesday and Wednesday, April 3, work on the harvest during the next 2 days, Thursday, Wednesday, the 2nd and the 3rd of April. So, in April 4, Thursday naman, amo na ang pagdakat na Magellan bound. They left Mazao bound for Cebu. So, that's all. Thank you.